Cheat on me with my best friend. I'll wreck your career and publicly humiliate both of you. Sarah have treated my wife and me like family for numerous years, almost since we moved in across the street from them. We were really close as a group of 4. Our children are the same age as theirs and are best buddies. We were all one huge family. We ate supper together many times a week. We have trips together. Was like a brother to me, and my wife and Sarah were close as well. The news of an affair between my wife and caught me totally off guard 5 months ago. My wife had left her email open on our computer, and I saw an email from her to her long-standing therapist in which she said that would be accompanying her for an upcoming appointment again. Is going on. My thoughts raced why on earth would be attending her treatment sessions without my knowledge. I ran a search and discovered some further emails to and from the therapist, confirming that had been attending sessions with her for around 6 weeks. I examined our phone account and saw that they had been sending hundreds of SMS every day since late summer, culminating at about 500 per day by the holidays. In terms of the holidays, my wife and I hosted both our families, parents, siblings, etc. for Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners, and Sarah joined us for dinner or after dinner on both occasions. My wife and were messaging each other across the room the whole time they were at our home celebrating with our families, according to text records. For months, they did it pretty much every time the 4 of us got together. And just all day every day in general. But what disturbs me the most is that they were doing it right in front of Sarah and me. When I presented the proof to my wife, she acknowledged that she and had fallen in love. It occurred right now, I'm not sure how. But I adore him, and I'm sorry I don't feel anything for you anymore. They gone on a school district trip together. Something had occurred in her hotel room, and things had escalated rapidly. She stated as I lay face down on the sofa, unable to look at her, that they had already made preparations to move out and divorce me and Sarah, and that although they didn't intend to move in together right away due to the kids, they would most likely do so soon. Meetings with the therapist were purportedly largely for the purpose of finding a gentle way to break this to me and Sarah, since they were so worried about our well-being. Sarah and I am very persuaded that they had no intention of informing us about the affair at all, and that they intended to discover their affections for one another many months later, when they'd found another cause to divorce the 2 of us. My wife left 2 months ago. I was and still am completely shattered. Every day, I weep. I was crying when I wrote the first few lines of this narrative. I'm always concerned about the influence on our children, but I'm also not a shrinking violet when I believe I've been mistreated. And in this situation, I was objectively terribly mistreated. So, a few years ago, ran for a seat on the Board of Education as a huge underdog. I assisted him with campaign materials and debate preparation, and my wife, a well-known school district employee, this will be significant later, spread the news as best she could. To our amazement, he won in a squeaker by just a few hundred votes. Universe revolved on his position on the board. He volunteered for every committee he could find. As they were frequently attending to school activities and meetings together on nights and weekends, this became the basis of his affair with my wife. When I discovered the affair, my thoughts soon moved to vengeance, and it seemed to me that an extramarital affair between a member of the Board of Education and a school district employee was at best poor politics and perhaps a violation of district policy. Making matters worse for them was the fact that my wife was in the running for an available administrative post, and everyone knew she was almost certain to get the job and the significant salary boost that came with it. She had just completed her master's degree in school administration at the request of her principal and superintendent in order to be promoted to this precise post. I had lots of proof of the affair, including messages from both of them confessing to it, text records showing that they were messaging hundreds of times per day, emails to and from the therapist, and so on. I contemplated just sending all of the proof to the board and the superintendent, but I was concerned that as the grieving, betrayed husband, I would not be seen as a reliable source. Instead, I made up a bogus, furious buddy who planned on attending the next board meeting and publicly humiliating the 2 of them for their affair. I informed my wife that I'd attempted to talk them down but couldn't promise they wouldn't come up and publicly disgrace them. As I predicted, came to the conclusion that the only way out was for him to acknowledge the affair to the board ahead of time. Agreed to quit when the superintendent advised it. He was embarrassed and saddened, according to Sarah, and he couldn't get out of bed for a few days thereafter. When news of the affair and departure spread, the superintendent, a longtime friend of both my wife, approached my wife and emotionally told her that she would no longer be promoted to an administrative position within the district. An outside applicant eventually filled the post that had been set up for her. This caused a flurry of uncertainty and speculation around the area, since it was well known that my wife had gotten the position. Despite our failing marriage, my wife and I took our kid out to breakfast on his birthday the day after she was told she wasn't receiving the promotion, and a parent dropped by our table to congratulate her on her new post. She thanked him and excused herself to weep in the toilet for a bit. I waited a couple of weeks for the dust to settle before telling them my little secret. There was never a furious buddy threatening to expose them in the first place. It's just me. All of this has spread across our very small town where I grew up, and where my wife has worked for over 20 years. My wife refuses to tell me how things are going at work right now, but I've heard from certain people I know in the district that her once clean reputation has taken a knock. Who was formerly a boisterous social presence in our area and at local events and bars, has entirely disappeared and only emerges to mow his lawn. He's leaving shortly to a rundown small townhouse that's all he can afford because of all the child support he'll have to give his wife. Despite the public humiliation, I wife and insist that they want to attempt to work things out. I wish them the best of luck. I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun for them to show their faces about town together. Story 2. My 28M brother 35M just had his second child. Based on the reaction, I don't know who to comfort. My brother and his wife have a daughter and have been expecting a second child for some time. It's no secret that my brother has always wanted a son. My brother's second kid, a baby girl, was born recently. My brother sobbed out of disappointment. My sister-in-law was saddened by the response. I'm not sure who to console at this time, since both my brother and sister-in-law want reassurance. What was supposed to be the happiest moment for both of them turned out to be the worst. They also chose a name that sounded like a male for the newborn. In hindsight, I prefer to bring a baby girl into the world. However, I would adore my kid regardless of gender. I have a girlfriend, but I am not yet married. We've been talking about our future plans, so I'd want to tell my brother and sister-in-law how fortunate they are. Thank you for the explanation, everyone. I'll invite them to supper tonight. After supper, I'll console my sister-in-law and give my brother a hard time. I hope everything goes well. Edit 2. Just wanted to clarify a few points. I appreciate all of your advice. Those who argue that my brother has a right to be disappointed are correct. However, just because you have the legal authority to do something does not imply you should. His reply was unplanned and untimely. Most instances of someone asserting their right to do something do not include empathy for others. He had no idea how his outburst would affect his family and his family's heritage. When my niece grows up, someone proposed birth tales, which would be tough to tell. In terms of my sister-in-law, she and my brother have been together longer than I have been in my present relationship, so we consider her to be as much a part of the family as my brother. This is why we'll go over everything together tonight. We completed the final edit yesterday night. I straightened my brother out while telling him how fortunate he is. I also made certain that my sister-in-law had no reservations. Despite being the youngest sister, I was always the more principled of the two. I'm accustomed to being the voice of reason in my family at this point. We'll always be a part of each other's life, unlike all of you with me. My sole objective is to assist all of us in moving ahead together.